Stoke the fire?
Done.
Hello, darling. Your nose is cold.
I've just come in.
Why? Surely you haven't been out in this weather.
I had to go down to the village for some stuff I'd forgotten. Did you get the chicken, Daddy?
It wasn't the right kind. I went on to another dump, but that wasn't any good either. Practically a whole day wasted. God, I'm half frozen. The car was skidding like anything. The snow's coming down thick. What do you bet we're not snowed in tomorrow?
Oh dear, I do hope not. If only the pipes don't freeze.
We'll have to keep the central heating well stoked up. Oh, too good. I do wish they'd send the coal along. We've not got any too much.
Oh, I do so hope everything goes well at first. First impressions are so important.
Is everything ready? Nobody's arrived yet, I suppose.
No, thank goodness. Mrs. Barlow hooked it early. Afraid of the weather, I suppose.
Well, what a nuisance these daily women are. That leaves everything on your shoulders.
And yours. This is a partnership.
So long as you don't ask me to cook.
No, no. That's my department. Anyway, we've got lots of tins in case we're snowed up. Oh, Charles, do you think it's going to be all right?
You've got cold feet, have you? Well, you're sorry now we didn't sell the place we were on Lenterty, instead of having this mad idea of running it as a guest house?
No, I'm not. I love it. And speaking of a guest house, just look at that.
Pretty good, what?
It's a disaster. You've left the S out, Monkwell instead of Monkswell.
Good Lord, so I did. Well, how did I ever come to do that? But it really doesn't matter, does it? Monkwell is just as good a name.
You're in disgrace. Go stoke up the central heat.
Across that icy yard? Shall I bag it up for the night?
No, you don't do that till 10 or 11 o'clock.
How appalling.
Hurry up, someone may arrive in a minute now.
You've got all the rooms worked out.
Yes. Mrs. Boyle, Blackwell Cloister Room. Major Metcalf, Blue Room. Miss Casewell, East Room. And Mr. Wren, Oak Room.
I wonder what all these people are like. Oughtn't we to have got the rent in advance?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
We are rather monks at this game.
They bring the luggage. If they don't pay me, keep the luggage. It's quite simple.
I can't help thinking we ought to have taken a correspondence course in hotel keeping. We're bound to be headed some way. The luggage might be just bricks wrapped in newspaper. And where should we be then?
They don't wrote some very good addresses.
That's what servants with forged references do. Some of these people may be criminals hiding from the police.
I don't care what they are, so long as they pay 7 guineas every week.
You're such a wonderful woman of business, woman.
Terrifically grim and named so peevish. And the whole place would be crammed full of bananas brass. Instead, it's heavenly. Quite heavenly. Lovely proportions. That's a fact. Ah, but this table is genuine. We're going to love it here. Have you got any wax flowers or birds of paradise?
I'm afraid not.
Oh, what a pity. Well, what about a sideboard? A purple plumbing, mahogany sideboard with solid carved fruits on it?
Oh, yes, we have in the dining room.
In there? Oh, I must see it.
Do come and warm yourself.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Real bedrock respectability. But why do irritating Tiny Tim. So bogus. Ah, Mrs. Ralston, you're absolutely right about the little round tables. I was being carried away by my feeling of the period. A big center mahogany table would need the right family around it. A stern, handsome father with a beard. A prolific, faded mother. 11 children of assorted ages. A grim governess. And someone named Poor Harriet. The poor relation who acts as a general dog's body and is very, very grateful for having been given a good home.
I'll take this upstairs for you. Oak room, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, I do so hope it's got the four-poster with the little chintz roses.
It hasn't.
I don't believe your husband's going to like me. How long have you been married? And are you very much in love?
Just a year. Perhaps you'd like to walk me through your room.
Oh, but I do so like knowing about people. I mean, I think people are so madly interesting, don't you?
Well, I suppose some are and some are not.
Oh, no, I disagree. They're all interesting. Because you never really know what a person is like or what they're really thinking. For instance, you don't really know what I'm thinking about right now, do you?
Not in the least.
You see, the only people that really know what other people are like are artists, and they don't know why they know it. But if it's a painter, it comes out on the canvas.
Are you a painter?
Oh no, I'm an architect. My parents, baptized me Christopher Wren in hopes that I would become some famous architect. Christopher Wren. As good as a halfway home. Of course, people always laugh and make jokes about St. Paul's, but who knows, I may have the last laugh. Chris Wren's prefab nest may yet go down in history. I'm going to love it here. I find your wife most sympathetic.
Indeed.
And really very beautiful.
Oh, don't be absurd.
There, isn't that like an English woman? Compliments always embarrass them. European women take compliments as a matter of course, but English women have all the feminine spirit crushed out of them by their husbands. There's something very boorish about English husbands.
Would you like to go and see a room?
Shall I?
Could you start the hot water boiler? This is Mousetrap November, I presume.
Yes.
I am Mrs. Boyle.
I'm Charles Ralston. Good and fine, Mrs. Boyle, and warm. Awful weather outside, isn't it? Is this your only luggage?
A Major Metcalf visit is safe.
I'll leave the door for you.
The taxi wouldn't risk coming up the drive. It stopped at the gate. We had to share a taxi from the station, and there was great difficulty in getting back. Nothing ordered to meet us, it seems.
I'm very sorry, Mrs. Boyle. We didn't know a train was coming by, you see. Otherwise, of course, we'd have made sure someone was standing by.
All trains should have been met.
Let me take your coat. My wife will be down in a moment. I'll go and give Metcalf a hand with the bags.
The drive might have at least been clear of snow. Most offhand and casual, I must say. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Ralston? Yes, I feel very young. Young? To be running an establishment of this kind, you can't have had much experience. We're only just starting. There has to be a beginning for everything, hasn't there? I see. Quite inexperienced. An old house. I hope you haven't got dry rot. Certainly not. A lot of people don't know they've got dry rot until it's too late to do anything about it. The house is in perfect condition. It could do with a coat of paint. You know, you've got worms, Oak.
This way, Major. This is my wife.
How do you do? Absolute blizzard outside. Thought at one point we should make it. I beg your pardon. If it goes on like this, I should say I'll have about 5 or 6 feet of snow by morning. I haven't seen anything like this since I was on leave in 1940.
I'll take these up. Which rooms did you say? The room and the rose room?
No, Mr. Wren liked four-posters so much, so it's Mrs. Boyle in the oak room and Major Metcalf in the blue room.
Major?
Oh, sir.
Do you have a sugar difficulty here? Oh, yes, we've got quite a big oak room that comes down from the village. And what indoor staff? No indoor staff, just us. Indeed. I understood this was a guest house, in full running order. We're only just starting.
And what will the robin do then, poor thing? Oh, I adore nursery rhymes, don't you? They're always so tragic and macabre. That's why children like them.
May I introduce Mr. Wren, Mrs. Boyle?
This is a very beautiful house. Don't you think so?
I have come to the time of my life when the amenities of an establishment are more important than its appearance alone. If I would have believed this, running concern, I should never have come here. I understand it was fully equipped with every home comfort.
There is no obligation for you to remain here if you're not completely satisfied, Mrs. Boyle.
No, indeed. I should not think of doing so.
If there has been any misapprehension, perhaps it'd be better if you left. I could ring for the taxi to return. The roads are not yet blocked. But we've had so many applications for rooms, and I dare say we should be able to fill your place quite easily. And in any case, we are raising our terms next month.
I'm certainly not going to leave before I've tried what this place is like. You needn't think you can turn me out now. Perhaps you'll take me up to my bedroom, Mrs. Ross. Certainly, Mrs. Boyle. Darling, you were wonderful.
That's a perfectly horrible woman. I'd love to see you throw her out in the snow. Serve her right.
It's a pleasure I've got to forgo on, Fred. Lord, there's another of them. Come in, come in.
Drove my car's about half a mile down the road. Ran into a drink.
Let me take this. Anyone stuff in the car?
No, I travel light. Glad to see you've got a good fire.
Mr. Wren, Miss...
Casler.
My wife will be down in a moment.
No hurry. Got to get myself thawed out. Looks as though you're going to be snowed up here. Weather report says heavy falls expected, motorists warned, etc. Hope you've got plenty of provisions in.
Oh, yes, my wife's an excellent manager. And in any case, we can always eat our hands.
Before we start to beat each other, eh?
Any news in the paper apart from the weather?
Usual political crisis. Oh yes, and a rather juicy murder.
A murder? Oh, I like murder.
They seem to think it was some homicidal maniac. Strangled a woman somewhere near Paddington. Sex maniac, I suppose.
The police are anxious to interview a man in the vicinity of Culver Street at the time. Medium height, wearing a dark short coat, lighter scarf, and a soft felt hat. Police messages to the suspect have been broadcast throughout the day.
Useful description. Fit pretty well anyway, wouldn't it?
Now, when it says they're anxious to interview someone, is that a polite way of saying that he's the murderer?
Could be.
Who was the woman who was murdered?
Mrs. Lyon. Miss Maureen Lyon.
Young or old?
Doesn't say. Doesn't appear to have been robbery.
I told you, sex maniac.
Here's Miss Casewell, Molly. My wife.
How do you do?
It's a rather cool night. There's water hot upstairs if you'd like that.
You're right, I would.
I must start getting things ready in the kitchen. Major Metcalf seems nice. He won't be trouble. It's Mrs. Boyle who really invited us to me. We must have a nice dinner tonight. I was thinking of opening 2 tins of minced beef and having peas and mashing with potatoes, and we have figs and custard for dessert. Do you think that would be all right?
I should think so. It's not very original.
Oh, do let me help. I adore cooking. How about an omelet? You've got eggs, haven't you?
Oh, yes, we've got plenty of eggs. We keep fowls. They don't lay as well as they should, but we put down a lot of eggs.
And if you've got a bottle of cheaper, any type of wine, you could add it to the, minced beef and cereal, did you say? Give it continental flavor. Show me where the kitchen is and what you've got, and I dare say I should have an inspiration.
Come on. though.
Why on earth did you give him the best room?
I told you already he liked the four-poster.
He liked a pretty four-poster. Twerp.
Giles!
I've got no use for that kind of Molly. You didn't handle a suitcase. I did.
Had it any bricks in it?
It had no weight at all. If you ask me, there was nothing inside it. He's probably one of those young men who go about bilking hotel keepers.
I don't believe it. I like it. Major Metcalf seems nice, don't you think?
Oh, probably drinks.
Oh, do you think so? Well, this case was rather odd.
A terrible female, if she is a female.
Well, it's terrible that all our guests are either odd or unpleasant. And to think we'll have to be snowed up with them.
I don't really mean that. I'm just feeling rather depressed. In any case, we know the worst. They've all arrived.
Look at that.
Probably the Culver Street murderer.
Don't!
Oh, where am I?
This is Mousetrap November, guesthouse.
What's the best good fortune? Madame, when answer to a prayer, guesthouse, and charming oceans. My Rolls Royce, alas, run into a snowdrift. Blinding snow everywhere. I do not know where I am. Perhaps I think to myself, I shall freeze to death. And I take my little bag, and I stagger through the snow. I see before me a big iron gate. A habitation, I'm saved. Twice I fall into the snow as I cut me dry. But at last, I arrive. And immediately, despair turns to joy. You can let me have a room, yes?
Oh, yes.
It's a rather small one, I'm afraid.
Naturally, for the guests.
We've only just opened this place today, so we're rather new at it.
Charming.
What about your luggage?
That's of no consequence. I have locked car securely.
Well, wouldn't it be better to get it in?
No. I can assure you, on such a night as this, there'll be no police abroad. And for me, my wants are very simple. I have all I need. Here, this little bag. Yes, all that I need.
Do come and warm yourself. Now, the room's a rather cold one, I'm afraid. It's a north-facing one, but all the rest are occupied.
You have several guests then?
Oh, yes, there's Miss Casewell, Mrs. Boyle, Major Metcalf, Mr. Wren, and now you.
Yes. The unexpected guest. The guest who did not invite. The guest who just arrived. Out of nowhere. From the storm. Sounds quite dramatic, does it not? Who am I? You do not know. Where do I come from? You do not know. Me, I'm the man of mystery. But now I tell you this. I complete the picture. From now on, there'll be no more rivals. And no departures either. By tomorrow, perhaps even already we are cut off from civilization. No butcher, no baker, no milkman, no postman, nobody and nothing but ourselves. That is admirable. Admirable. Could not suit me better. My name, by the way, is Parisini.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Ralston.
Mr. and Mrs. Ralston. Mrs. Monkswell Manor Guest House, you said? Good. Monkswell Manor Guest House. Perfect.
Consider it most dishonest not to have told me they were just starting this place.
Larry thinks going to have eating, you know. Excellent breakfast this morning, good coffee, scrambled eggs, homemade omelet, and all nicely served, too. Little woman does it all herself.
Amateurs. There should be a proper staff.
Excellent lunch, too.
Corned beef.
A very well disguised queen. Red wine. Ms. Ralston said she was going to make a pie for us tonight.
These radios are not really hot. I shall speak about it.
Comfortable beds, too. At least mine was. What yours were.
It was quite adequate. I don't quite see why the best bedroom in the house should begin with that very peculiar young man.
Got here ahead of us, I suppose. First come, first served.
From the advertisement, I got quite a different impression of what this place would be like. A comfortable rising room, a much larger place altogether, with bridge and other amenities.
Regular tabby's delight.
I beg your pardon.
I mean, yes. I quite see what you mean.
No, indeed. I shan't stay here long.
No, I don't suppose you will.
You're a very peculiar young man. Unbalanced me. I should remember.
I think he's escaped from a lunatic asylum.
I shouldn't be at all surprised. Giles,
Yes,
could you shut the stairway again from the back door?
coming.
I'll give you a hand, boy. Good exercise must have exercise.
Sorry, that's all right. Really? What an incredibly young woman. Doesn't she know anything about housework? Carrying a compass through the front hall. Are there any back stairs?
Oh yes, nice back stairs. Very convenient if there was a fire.
Then why not use them? Anyway, all the housework should have been done in the morning before lunch.
I gather our hostess had to cook the lunch.
All very haphazard and amateurish. There should be a proper staff.
Not very easy to get nowadays, is it?
No, indeed. The lower class seems to have no idea of responsibilities.
Poor old lower classes. Got the bit between the teeth, haven't they?
I gather you're a socialist.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I'm not a red. Just pale pink. But I don't do much interest in politics. I live abroad.
I suppose conditions are much easier abroad.
I don't have to cook and clean as I gather most people have to do in this country.
This country has gone sadly downhill. Not what it used to be. I sold my house last year. Everything was too difficult.
Hotels and guest houses are easier.
They certainly solve some of one's problems. Are you over in England for long?
Depends. I've got some business to see to. When it's done, I shall be back.
To France?
No.
Italy?
No.
Would you mind not having that on quite so loud? I find the radio rather distracting when one's trying to write letters.
Do you?
If you don't particularly want to listen just now,
It's my favorite music. Besides, there's a rising temperature on that.
but it's much warmer in here.
Much warmer, I agree. Bloody old bag.
Oh,
Hello.
wherever I go, that woman follows me. She glares. You must have been glares.
Turn it down.
Is that all right?
Oh yes, it served its purpose.
What purpose?
Tactics, boy.
Oh, you mean her?
She thinks the best chat. I've got it now.
You drove her out. I'm glad. I'm very glad. I don't like her a bit. Hey, let's think of things we can do to annoy her, shall we? Or she go away from here.
In this? Not a hope.
But when the snow melts,
Oh. When the snow melts, lots of things may happen.
yes. Yes, that's quite true. Snow's rather lovely, isn't it? So peaceful, pure. Makes one forget things.
It does make me forget.
How fierce you sound.
I was tad shivering. Cold and fear.
My dear, it sounds too grim. What is it, a novel?
You didn't know I was a writer, did you?
Are you?
Sorry to disappoint you. Actually, I'm not.
Hello? Yes? This is Mousetrap November guesthouse. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Ralston can't come to the telephone just now. This is Mrs. Ralston speaking. Who? The Berkshire Police. Oh, yes, Superintendent Hodgkin. I'm afraid that's quite impossible. The roads are snowed up, completely snowed up. They're impassable. Yes. Very well. But, hello? Hello?
Molly, do you know there's another shovel?
Joyce, please you just run up.
Trouble with the police, eh? Serving liquor without a license.
The second inspector or a sergeant is nothing out here.
But he'll never get here.
That's what I told him, but he was quite sure that he would.
Nonsense. Not even a jeep could get through today. Anyway, what's it all about?
He didn't say. Just said I was to impress upon my husband to listen to what Sergeant Trotter, I think it was, had to say, and to follow his instructions implicitly. Isn't it extraordinary?
What on earth do you think we've done?
Do you think it's those miles from Gibraltar?
I did remember to get the wireless license, didn't I?
Yes, it's in the kitchen dresser.
I had a rather near shaking the car the other day, but it was entirely the other fellow's fault.
We must have done something.
It's probably something to do with running this place. I expect they've ignored some tin pot regulation of some ministry over there. You practically can't avoid it nowadays.
Oh dear, I wish we'd never started this place. Everyone's caught, cross, and we shall run out of all those little tins.
Cheer up, darling. Everything's going all right at the moment. I've filled the coal scuttles, and brought in kindling, and stoked the fire, and done the hens. I'll go to the boiler nose and chop some more kindling. You know, Molly, it must be something pretty serious to send a police sergeant tracking out on us. It must be something really urgent.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Johnson. Did you know the central heating in the library is practically stone cold?
Oh, I'm very sorry, Mrs. Boyle, but we're a bit short of coal.
I am paying 7 guineas a week here. 7 guineas. And I do not want to freeze.
Go and stoke it up.
Mrs. Ralston, if you don't mind my saying so, that is a very peculiar young man you have staying here. His manners, and his ties, and does he even brush his hair? He's an extremely brilliant young architect. I beg your pardon. Christopher Wren is an architect. My dear young woman, I have naturally heard of Sir Christopher Wren. Of course he's an architect. He built St. Paul's. You young people seem to think that no one is educated but yourselves. No, I mean this way. His name is Christopher. His parents named him that in hopes that he'd be an architect. And he is, or nearly is one, so it turned out all right. Sounds a fishy story to me. I should make some inquiries about him if I were you. What do you know? Just as much as I know about you, Mrs. Boyle. That you're paying 7 guineas a week to stay here. That's all I really need to know, isn't it? You are young and inexperienced, and should welcome advice from someone more knowledgeable than yourself. And what of this boy? What of him? You weren't expecting him, were you? To turn away a bona fide traveler is against the law, Mrs. Boyle. You should know that. Why do you say that? Weren't you a magistrate on the bench, Mrs. Boyle? All I'm saying is that this parented senior, whatever he calls himself, seems to me.
Beware, dear lady. You talk to the devil and here he is.
I didn't hear you come in.
No, I keep my tiptoe, like this. Nobody ever hears me if I do not want them to. I find that very amusing.
Indeed. Well, I must get on with my letters. I'll see if it's a little warmer upstairs.
My charming host looks upset. What is it, dear lady?
Everything's rather difficult this morning because of the snow.
Yes, snow makes things very difficult, does it not? Or else it makes things very easy. Yes, very easy.
I don't know what you mean.
No, think, for one thing, you don't know much about running a guest house.
We're only just starting.
Sure. Okay.
I'm not such a very bad cook.
Bravo, bravo. Well, let me give you a word of warning, Mrs. Ralston. You and your husband must not be too trusting. Any references with these guests of yours?
Is that normal? I always thought people just came.
It is advisable, though, about the people who sleep under your roof. See, for example, myself. I arrived saying my car's overturned in the snow. What do you know of me? Nothing at all. I may be a thief, a robber, a fugitive from justice, a madman, even a murderer.
Oh,
You see, and perhaps you know just a little of your other guests.
well, as far as Mrs. Boyle goes, the upstairs is far too cold to sit in. I shall write my letters in here.
Allow me to poke the fire for you.
Excuse me, Miss Rolston, is your husband about? I'm afraid the pipes of the downstairs cloakroom are frozen.
Oh dear, what an awful day. First the police, then police!
Police, did you say?
Yes, they brought up about half an hour ago. Said they're sending a sergeant out here, but I don't think he'll ever make it.
The bloody coat's more than half stone in the price. Hello, meeting the master?
I hear the police on their way here. Why?
Well, that's all right. No one could get through this. Well, the drifts must be 5 feet deep. The roads are all banked up. No one will make it here today. Excuse me, Mr. Pepsi. Put these down.
Oh!
You, Mr. Ralston?
Yes.
I'm Detective Sergeant Trotter from the Berkshire Police. Can I get these skates off and start them somewhere?
Yes. Go around that way to the front door. I'll meet you.
Thank you, sir.
I suppose that's what we pay our police force for nowadays. To go around enjoying themselves at winter sports.
Why did you send the police, Mrs. Ralston?
But I didn't.
Who's that man? Where did he come from? He passed by the drawing room window on skis. All of ice and snow looking terribly hardy.
Believe it or not, but that man is a policeman. A policeman! Skiing!
This is Detective Sergeant Trotter.
Good afternoon.
You can't be a sergeant, you're too young.
I'm not quite as young as I'm looking, madam.
But terribly hardy.
We'll store your skis away under the stairs.
Excuse me, Miss Rolston. May I use your telephone?
Certainly, Major Metcalf.
He's very attractive, isn't he? I always think that policemen are attractive.
No brains, you see that in a glance.
Hello? Hello? Ms. Rolston, I'm afraid this telephone is dead. Quite dead.
It was fine about half an hour ago.
The line's gone with the way of the snow, I suppose.
So we're quite cut off now. Quite cut off. That's funny, isn't it?
I don't see anything to laugh at.
Indeed.
Oh, it's a private joke of my own.
This way, Sergeant Trotter.
The sleuth is returning.
Now, let's finally get to business. Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston.
Would you like to see us alone? If so, we could go into the library.
It's not necessary, sir. It'll save time if everybody's present. I'll not sit this table. Thank you.
Please, do hurry up and tell us what we've done.
Done. Oh, it's nothing like that, Mrs. Ralston. It's more a matter of police protection, you understand me?
Police protection.
It relates to the death of Mrs. Lyon, Mrs. Maureen Lyon of 24 Golden Street, West 2, London, who was murdered yesterday. You may have heard about the case.
Yes, I heard it on the wireless. The one who was strangled.
That's right, ma'am. Now, the first thing I want to know is if you were acquainted with this Mrs. Lyon.
Never heard of her.
You might have known her under the name of Lyon. Lyon wasn't her real name. She had a police record and her fingerprints were on file, so we were able to identify her without difficulty. Her real name was Maureen Stanning. Her husband was a farmer, John Stanning, who resided at Longridge Farm, not very far from here.
Longridge Farm? Wasn't that where those
Yes,
children?
the Longridge Farm case.
3 children.
That's right, miss. The Corrigans. The awards and the girl brought before the court as an carry protection. A hound was found for them with Mr. and Mrs. Stenning at Longridge Farm. One of the children subsequently died as a result of persistent ill treatment and criminal neglect. The case made a bit of a sensation at the time.
It was horrible.
Now, the Stannings were sentenced to terms of imprisonment. Stanning died in prison. Mrs. Stanning served the sentence and was duly released. Yesterday, as I say, she was found strangled at 24 Goldber Street.
Who did it?
I'm from that, madam. Now, a notebook was picked up near the scene of the crime. In that notebook was written 2 addresses. One was 24 Goldber Street, and the other was Winsor Manor.
What?
Yes, sir. That's what Superintendent Hodgman, on receiving this information, thought it imperative for me to come out here and see if there was any information between this house, or anyone in this house, and the Longridge Farm case.
No connection at all. Must be a coincidence.
Superintendent Hodgman does not think it's a coincidence, sir. He had come himself and feared it had been in any way possible. Under the weather conditions, as I can ski, he sent me with full instructions and particulars of everyone in the house, to report back to him by phone and to take what measures are thought fit to ensure the safety of the household.
Safety? My lord, what danger does he think we're in? Surely he doesn't think someone's going to be killed here.
I don't want to frighten any of the ladies, but, frankly, he sets out here.
But why?
That's what we're going to find out.
The whole thing is crazy.
Yes, sir. It's because it's crazy that it's dangerous.
Nonsense! I must say, it does seem a bit far-fetched.
I think it's wonderful.
Is there something you're not telling us, Sergeant?
Yeah, Mrs. Austin. Below the 2 addresses was written 3 blind mice. And on the dead woman's body we found, there was a piece of paper that said, "This is the first written on it." Below the words was a drawing of 3 little mice and a bar of music. The music was the tune of the nursery rhyme, 3 blind mice. You know how it goes. 3 blind mice.
3 blind mice, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife. Oh, it's horrible.
There was 3 children and 1 died.
Yes, a boy of 11.
What happened to the other 2?
The girl was adopted by someone. We haven't been able to trace her present whereabouts, but the elder boy would now be about 22. Deserted from the army, and hasn't been heard of since. According to the army psychologist, was definitely schizophrenic. That's to say, it's all in the head.
They think that it was he who killed Mrs. Lyon, Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
and that he's going to show up here and kill someone, but why?
That's what I've got to find out from you, I'm afraid. As a superintendent sees it, there's got to be some connection. Now, you, sir, state that you yourself have never had any connection with this Longridge Farm affair.
No.
What about you, ma'am?
No, I mean, no connection.
What about servants?
No. Speaking of that, would you mind very much if I went in the kitchen and get on with things?
Yes, Mrs. Austin, it's quite all right.
I'll be there if you'll need me.
Now, we'll need overnight, please.
This is quite ridiculous. We're merely staying at a kind of hotel. We've all just arrived yesterday. We've nothing to do with this place.
But you'd come in advance. You'd plan to book your rooms here ahead.
Well, yes. All except Mr.
Pavasini. My car was turned into snowdrifts.
I see. What I'm getting at is that anyone who might have been following you around might know very well that you were coming here. Now, there's just one thing I want to know, and I want to know it quick. Which one of you is it that has some business with that Longridge Farm case? You're not being very sensible, you know. One of you is in danger, deadly danger. I've got to know which one of you it is. All right. I'll ask you one by one. You first. Since you seem to have arrived here more or less by accident, Mr.
Pavasini. But my dear Sergeant, I know nothing of what you've been talking about. I'm a stranger to this country, and know nothing of these local affairs of bygone years.
Mrs.
Good. I don't see clearly. I consider it impertinent. Why should I have anything to do with this distressing business?
Miss.
Casewell. Leslie
Metcalf, Major. Read about it in the papers at the time. I was staying in Atterbury. No personal knowledge.
And you?
Christopher Wren. I was a child at the time. I don't remember even hearing about it.
And that's all you got to say. Any of you. Well, if one of you gets murdered, you'll have yourselves a blank. Now, Mrs. Rawson, can I please have a look around the house?
Yes.
My dears, how melodramatic. He's very attractive, isn't he? I adore the police, so stern and hard-boiled. How does the tune go? Three blind mice. Dum, dum, dum. Dum, dum, dum.
Really, Mr. Red?
Oh, but don't you like it? It's the signature tune. The signature of the murderer. What a kick you must be getting out of it.
Melodramatic rubbish. I don't believe a word of it.
Oh, but just wait, Mrs. Boyle, till I come up behind you and you feel my hands on your throat.
Stop!
That'll do, Christopher. It's a poor joke. In fact, it's not even a joke at all.
Oh, but it is. That's just what it is. A madman's joke. That's what makes it so deliciously macabre. Oh, if you could have just seen your faces.
Ill-mannered, erotic young man. Where's Giles?
Giving our policemen a conducted tour of the house.
Your friendly architects would be behaving in a most abnormal manner.
Young fellow seems very nervy nowadays. Dare say he'll snap out of it.
Nerves? I have no patience with people who have nerves. I haven't any nerves.
No? Perhaps that's just as well for you, Mrs. Boyle.
What do you mean?
I believe you were one of the magistrates on the bench at the time. In fact, you were the one who sent those 3 children off to Long Ridge Farm.
Really, Major Metcalf? I can hardly be held responsible. We had reports from welfare workers. The farm people seemed very nice and were most anxious to have the children. Most satisfactory. Eggs and fresh milk and an out-of-doors life.
Kicks, blows, starvation, and a thoroughly vicious couple.
But how was I to know? They were very civilly spoken. Yes, I was right. It was you. One tries to do a public duty, and all one gets is abuse.
Oh, you must forgive me. But indeed, I find this all most amusing. I enjoy myself greatly.
I never did like that man.
Where did he come from last night?
I don't know.
Looks a bit of a spin to me. Makes his face up too. Rouge and powder. Disgusting. He must be quite old too.
And yet he skips rags though they're quite young.
You'll be wanting more wood. I'll get it.
All right, someone stop. Yet it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, where did I leave my pen? Horrid little tune that is.
Don't you like it? Remind you of your childhood, perhaps? An unhappy childhood?
I was very happy as a child.
You were lucky.
Weren't you happy?
No.
I'm sorry.
That's all a long time ago. One gets over things.
Perhaps.
Or doesn't one? Damn hard to say.
They say that what happens when you're younger matters the most.
They say. They say. Who says?
Psychologists.
All humbug. Just a damn lot of nonsense. I've no use for psychiatrists and psychologists.
I really haven't had much to do with them myself.
A good thing for you, you haven't. It's all a lot of nonsense. The whole thing. Life's what you make of it, I say. Go straight ahead. Don't look back.
Sometimes one can't always help looking back.
Nonsense. It's a question of willpower.
Perhaps.
I know.
Well, I expect you're right. But sometimes things happen to make you remember. right way. I wonder, perhaps they're all wrong. Perhaps we're not willing to face them.
Depends on what you're talking about.
Sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm not going to let the past affect me, except in the way that I want it to.
Well, everything's all right upstairs. Oh, yeah, what's your name? Drawing room?
Would you mind shutting that door? This place is full of traps.
Sorry, madam, but I've got to get the lay of the land.
What's all this?
Suspicious around here. Well, I think I'll make my report to Superintendent Hodgman then.
But you can't telephone, the line's dead.
What? Since when?
Major Metcalf tried it just after you arrived.
Well, it was all right earlier. Superintendent Hodgman got through all right.
I suppose, but since then, the lines are down with the snow.
I wonder. It might have been cut.
Cut? But who would cut it?
Mr. Olson, how much do you know about these people staying in your guest house?
We really don't know anything about them. Mrs. Boyle wrote from a Bournemouth hotel, and Major Metcalf from an address in... Where was it?
Leamington.
Mr. Wren wrote from an address in Hampstead, and the casewoman from a private hotel in Kensington. And Mr. Parvicini, as we've told you, turned him out of the blue last night. But I suppose they've got ration books, that sort of thing.
Well, I shall go into all that sort of evidence, but really there's not much reliance to be based on that sort of evidence.
But even if this crazy homicidal maniac is trying to get here, he won't be able to until the snow melts.
Unless he's here already.
Here already?
Why not, Mr. Olson? Your guest arrived here yesterday evening, some time before the murder of Mrs. Stanley. Plenty of time to get here.
But all except for Mr. Parvicini, they booked beforehand.
Well, why not? These crimes are planned.
Crimes? There's only been one crime in Culver Street. What makes him so sure there'll be another one here?
That it will happen here, no. I plan to prevent that. That it will be attempted, yes.
I can't believe it. It's too
It
fantastic.
isn't fantastic, it's just facts.
Do you have a description of what this murderer looked like in London?
Medium height, indeterminate build, darkish overcoat, soft felt hat, a large scarf. The killer spoke in a whisper. There are 3 darkish overcoats on the wall here. One of them is yours, Mr. Olson. There are 3 light soft felt hats.
I don't believe it.
You know, it's one thing that worries me is this telephone wire, if it's been cut.
I must go and get on with the vegetables.
Is there an extension telephone wire?
I beg your pardon, did you say something?
Yes, Mr. Olson. I said, is there an extension telephone wire?
Yes, upstairs in the bedroom.
Will you please go up and try it for me, will you? Now think, Mrs. Ralston, try and think.
I can't think, my head's not.
Mrs. Boyle had just been killed when you got her. You came from the kitchen. Are you sure you didn't see or hear anybody as you came along the hall?
I don't think so. Just the radio blaring in here. I couldn't think who turned it on so loud. I wouldn't hear anything else but that, would I?
Well, that was clearly the murderer's idea. Or murderer's!
How could I hear anything else?
You might have done. If the murderer had come from the hall that way, he might have heard you coming from the kitchen. He could have slipped up the back stairs, or even into the dining room.
I don't know. I heard a pop and then a creak, just as I was coming out of the kitchen.
Which door?
I don't know.
Think, Mrs. Ralston, try and think for me. Upstairs, downstairs, closer, and right, left.
I don't know, I tell you. I'm not even sure I heard anything.
Can you stop bullying her? Can you see she's all in?
We're investigating a murder, Miss Ralston, and up to now, nobody has taken this thing seriously. Mrs. Boyle did. She held out on me with information. You all held out on information. Well, now Mrs. Boyle is dead. Until we get to the bottom of this and quickly find her, maybe another death.
Another? Nonsense. Why?
Because there were 3 little blind mice.
A death for each of them? But that means there would have to be some connection. I mean another connection with the Longridge farm business.
Yes, there would have to be that.
But why another death here?
Because in the notebook we picked up near the scene of the crime, there was only one possible victim. Whichever looks will matter, there is a much wider field.
Nonsense. Surely it is a most unlikely coincidence that 2 people should be brought here. By chance. Both with the Sharon the Longridge farm case.
Given certain circumstances, it wouldn't be so much of a coincidence. Think it out, Miss Casewell. Now, I want it down quite clearly where everyone was when Mrs. Boyle was killed. I've already heard Mrs. Ralston say she was in the kitchen preparing vegetables. You came out of the kitchen, along the hallway, through the swing doors, and in here. The radio was blaring, the lights were switched off. The hall was dark. You switched the lights on, saw Mrs. Boyle, and screamed.
Yes, I screamed and screamed, and at last people came.
Yes, as you say, people came. A lot of people from different directions, all arriving more or less at once. Now, when I got out of that window, strikes the telephone wire, it was you, Mr. Ralston, who went upstairs to the room you and Mrs. Ralston occupied to try the extension telephone wire. Where were you when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream?
I was still upstairs in the bedroom. The extension telephone was dead too. I looked out the window to see if there was any sign of the wire being cut there, but there wasn't. I shut the window and heard Molly scream and rushed right down.
Those simple actions took you a rather long time, didn't they, Mr. Ralston?
I don't think so.
I should say you definitely took your time with them.
I was thinking about something.
Very well. Now then, Mr. Ryan, I'll have your account of where you were.
I went in the kitchen to see if there was anything I could do to help Mrs. Ralston. After that, I went up to my bedroom.
Why?
It's a quite natural thing to want to go to one's bedroom. One doesn't want to be alone sometimes.
You went to your room because you wanted to be alone.
And I wanted to brush my hair and tidy up.
You wanted to brush your hair.
Well, anyway, that's where I was.
Did you heard Mrs. Ralston scream?
Yes.
Did you came in here?
Yes.
It's curious that you and Miss Ralston didn't meet each other on the stairs.
I went down by the back stairs.
Did you go to your room by the back stairs or did you come through here?
I went down by the back stairs too. They're closer to my room.
I see. Mr. Ferguson,
I've told you. I was playing piano in the drawing room.
you're there, Inspector. I'm not an inspector, Mr. Sergeant, Mr. Kelsey. Did anyone hear you playing the piano?
I do not think so. I was playing very softly, with one finger, so.
You were playing 3 blind mice.
Is that so?
Yes, it's a very catchy little tune. It is, how should you say, a haunting little tune. Don't you all agree?
I think it's horrible.
Yet it runs in people's heads. Someone was whistling it too.
Whistling it? Where?
I don't know. Perhaps in the front hall, perhaps on the stairs, perhaps even upstairs in the bedroom.
Who is whistling 3 blind mice, hmm? Are you making this up as a pair of a scene?
No, no, Inspector. I mean, Sergeant. I would not do a thing like that. Now, go on, you playing the piano. Yes, I was playing the piano, one finger so. And then I hear the radio is playing very loudly. Someone is yelling over it. It offends my ears. And then, suddenly, I hear Miss Ralston scream.
Mr. Ralston upstairs. Mr. Wren upstairs. Mr. Grazzini in the drawing room. Miss Casewell.
I was writing letters in the library.
Did you hear what's going on in here?
No, I couldn't hear anything until I heard Mrs. Ralston scream.
What did you do then?
I came in here.
At once.
I think so.
You say you were writing letters when you heard Mrs. Ralston scream?
Yes.
And you got up and came in here hurriedly?
Yes.
And yet, there doesn't seem to be any unfinished writing letters.
I brought them with me.
Dearest Jessie, a friend of yours or a relation?
It's none of your damn business.
Perhaps not. You know, if I were to hear someone screaming blue murder, I don't think I'd take the time to fold up my unfinished letter, put it in my pocket, and come in here to see what was the matter.
You wouldn't. How interesting.
Now then, Major Metcalf, you say you were in the cellars.
Why? Looking around, just looking around. I looked at that cupboard place under the stairs near the kitchen, one of drunk and sports staple, and I noticed there was a door inside of it, so I opened it and saw a flight of steps. And I was curious and I went down. Nice cellars you got.
Flagellum?
No, not at all. Crypt of no monastery, I should say. Probably why this place is called Monkswell.
We're not engaged in antiquarian research, Major Metcalf. We're investigating a murder. Mrs. Wilson has told us that she heard a door shut with a faint creak. Now that door right there, shut with that particular creak. It could be, you know, that after the murderer killed Mrs. Boyle, he slipped off into the cupboard, pulling the doors after him.
There would be fingerprints on the cupboard.
Were your fingerprints there too?
One of there all right, but most criminals are careful to wear gloves on there.
It's usual. But most criminals slip up sooner or later.
Are you sure about that, Sergeant?
Come now, aren't we wasting time? There's only one
Please,
person.
Mr. Wilson, I'm in charge of this investigation.
Very well.
No, I think it's
Quiet down! Thank you. We've got to establish opportunity, you know? As well as motive. And let me tell you something. You all had opportunity. There are two staircases. Anyone can go up by one and come down the other. Anyone can go up or no, down to the cellars and then come up through a flight of stairs to a trapdoor near the flight of the stairs over there. The vital fact was that you were all alone at the time these murders were committed.
Look here, Sergeant. You speak as though we were all under suspicion. That's absurd.
In a murder case, everyone is under suspicion.
But you pretty well know who killed that woman in Culver Street. You think it's the eldest of those three children from the farm, a mentally abnormal young man around the age of 22. Damn it all, there's only one person who fits the bill!
It's not true, it's not true. You're all against me. Everyone's always been against me. You're going to frame me for murder. It's persecution, that's what it is. Persecution.
Steady, lads, steady.
It's all right, Chris. Nobody's against you. Tell him it's all right.
Don't Frankie.
Tell him you're not going to arrest him.
I'm not arresting anyone. To do that, I've got to have evidence. I haven't any evidence yet.
I think you're crazy, Molly. And you too. There's only one person who fits the bill. And even as a safety precaution, he ought to be put under arrest. It's only fair to the rest of us.
Wait, Giles. Wait. Sergeant Trotter, may I speak to you a moment?
Yes, Mr. Will you please all go into the dormitory?
I'm staying.
No, you too.
I don't ask you both of you, Molly. I'm staying.
Please. But you don't know that, do you?
We don't actually know a thing. All we know is that the woman who joined with her husband in ill-treating and starving those children has been killed. And that the woman magistrate responsible for placing them there has been killed. Now, the telephone wire that links me directly with police headquarters has been cut.
But you don't even know that. It may have gone down in the snow.
No, Mrs. Austin, the line was deliberately cut. I found the place just outside the front door.
I see. But still, you don't know.
I'm going by probability. It all points one way. Mental instability. Childish mentality. Desertion from the army. Not psychologist, Paul.
Oh, I know. And therefore it all seems to point to Christopher. But I don't believe it is him. There are plenty of other possibilities.
Such as?
Well, hadn't those children any relations at all?
The mother was a drunk. She died soon after the children were taken away from her.
And the father?
He was an army sergeant, serving abroad. If he's alive, he's probably discharged from the army by now.
You don't know where he is now?
We've no information. To trace him may take some time, but I can assure you, Mrs. Rawson, that the police have taken every eventuality into account.
You have no idea where he is at this very moment. If the son was mentally unstable, then the father might as well be too.
It's a possibility.
And if he came home, after being in prison with the Japs, and having suffered terribly, if he came home to find his wife dead, and his three children having gone through a horrific experience, he may go off his head a bit and want revenge.
As on the surmise.
But it's possible.
Oh yes, Mrs. Austin, it's quite possible.
So, this killer, he may be middle-aged or even an older man. Major Metcalf was very nervous when the police had run up. He really was, I saw his face.
Major Metcalf.
Middle-aged, former soldier. Oh, I know he seems quite nice and normal, but he mightn't show it, might he?
No, often it doesn't show at all.
So that's not only Christopher Wren who's a suspect, but there's Major Metcalf as well.
Any other suggestions?
Mr. Paracasini did drop the pole when the police had run up. A foreigner. Oh, I know it seems quite old, but he looks as though he were quite young. He does wear makeup, Miss Casewell noticed it too. Oh, I know it sounds very melodramatic, but he may be disguised.
You're very anxious, aren't you? That it shouldn't be young Mr. Wren.
Well, he just seems so helpless and so unhappy.
Mrs. Wilson, let me tell you something. I've had all possibilities in mind ever since the beginning. The boy, Georgie, the father, and there was someone else. There was a sister, you remember?
Oh, the sister.
Yes, it could have been a sister, or a woman who killed Maureen Lane. The muffler pulled one up, the sofa helped her pull one down. You know, the killer spoke in a whisper. It's the divorce that gives the sex away. Yes, it could have been a woman.
Miss Casewell.
She looks a bit old for the part. Oh yes, Mrs. Rawson, there's a very wide field. And there's yourself, for instance.
And me?
You're about the right age. Now, I've got no means of checking up that you're stabbing right now, remember? And then there's your husband.
Giles, how ridiculous.
He and Christopher Wren are much of an age. It's like your husband looks older than his years, and Christopher Wren looks younger. Actual age is very hard to tell. How much do you know about your husband, Mrs. Ralston?
How much do I know about Giles? Oh, don't be silly.
You've been married to him how long?
Just a year.
Where did you meet him?
At a dance in London, we went in a party.
Did you meet his people?
He hasn't any people, they're all dead.
They're all dead.
Oh, but you make it sound all wrong. His father was a barrister and his mother died when he was a baby.
You're only telling me what he told you. You
Yes.
don't know it of your own knowledge.
It's
You'd be
outrageous.
surprised, Mrs. Wilson, if you knew how many cases, rather like the old we get, especially since the war. Home is broken up. Family's dead. Fellow says he's been in the Air Force, so I've just finished training. Parents killed. No relations. There aren't any background checks nowadays, and people settle their own affairs. It's the parents and the relatives who used to make the inquiries before they consented to an engagement. That's how they'll away with it now. Girl just marries a man. Sometimes it's a year or two before she finds out he's an absconding bank clerk or an army deserter, something equally undesirable. How long have you known Charles Wilson before you married him?
Just 3
You
weeks.
don't know anything about him.
That's not true. I know just the type of person he is. He's Giles, and it's absolutely absurd to suggest these things about him. To suggest that he's a crazy homicidal maniac.
Where was he yesterday?
Well, he was out racing around the countryside looking for wire netting for our chickens.
Did he bring it back with him?
Turned out to be the wrong kind.
You're only 30 miles from London, aren't you? An hour by train, a little longer by car.
I tell you, Giles wasn't in
Just a
London.
minute. This is your husband's coat?
Yes.
Yesterday's paper, the evenings. Sold on the streets about 2:30 yesterday afternoon.
I don't believe it.
Don't you? Don't you?
Molly,
Oh, you stole me.
where is he? Where is he gone?
Who?
The sergeant.
Oh, he went out that way.
If there was only a way I could get away. Somehow. Some way. Is there anywhere I can hide in the house?
Hide?
Yes, from him.
But why?
But darling, you're also frightfully against me. You're going to say I committed these murders. Particularly your husband.
Never mind him. Chris, you've got to grow up sometime.
I wish I hadn't.
Your name isn't really Christopher Wren, is it?
No.
And you're not training to be an architect.
No.
But why did you
Call
call
myself Christopher Wren. It just amused me. And at school when they'd make fun of me and call me names, Christopher Robin, Wren, association of ideas. It was hell being at school.
What's your real name?
We needn't get into that. I ran away whilst I was doing my army service. It was also beastly. I hated it. Yes, I'm just likely a known murderer. I told you I was the one the specification fitted. You see, my mother.
Yes, your mother.
Well, it would have been all right if she hadn't died. She would have taken care of me, looked after me.
Chris, you can't go on being looked after all your life. Things happen, you've got to face them, bear them, go on just as usual.
One can't do that.
Yes, one can.
You mean you have?
Yes,
Was it something very bad?
something I've never forgotten.
Was it to do with Giles?
No, it was long before I met Giles.
You must have been very young, almost a child.
It was horrible. Horrible. I try not to think about it. I try to put it out of my mind. Considering that we just met yesterday, we seem to know each other quite well, don't you think?
Yes, it's odd, isn't it?
There's a sort of sympathy between us.
So, you think I ought to stick it out?
Quite frankly, what else can you do?
I could pinch the sergeant's skis. I can ski quite well.
That would be frightfully stupid. It would almost be like admitting you're guilty.
The sergeant thinks I'm guilty.
No, he doesn't. At least, I don't know what he thinks. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him.
Who?
Sergeant Trotter. He puts things into your head, things that aren't true. They can't possibly be true.
What is all this?
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Well, won't you believe? Come on out with it.
You see this?
Yes?
It's an evening paper chickens. But it turned out to be the wrong kind.
Well, that's all right. He probably did go to London after all.
But if he did, why would he tell me he did? Why pretend he could racing around in the countryside?
Well, perhaps with the news of this murder.
But Joyce didn't know about the murder. Or did he? Did he?
Good Lord, Molly, surely you don't think. The Sergeant Trotter doesn't think.
I don't know what the sergeant thinks. He makes you think things about people. You ask yourself questions, and you begin to doubt. You feel that someone you love and know well might be a stranger. It's like what happens in a nightmare. You're surrounded by all your friends, and suddenly, they're not your friends any longer. They're different people. Perhaps you can't trust anybody. Perhaps everybody's a stranger.
I seem to be interrupting something.
No, we were just talking. I must go out to the kitchen, get on with the chicken and the potatoes, and I must do the spinach.
I'll give you a hand.
No, you won't.
Giles!
Tete-a-tetes aren't very healthy things at present. You keep out of the kitchen and keep away from my wife.
Now really, look here.
You keep away from my wife, Fran. She's not going to be your next victim.
So that's what you think of me.
I've already said so, haven't I? There's a killer lives in this house, and it seems to me you fit the bill.
I'm not the only one that fits the bill.
I don't see who else does.
How blind you are. Or do you just pretend to be blind?
I'm worried about my wife's safety.
So am I. I'm not going to leave you alone with her.
What the hell?
Please go, Chris.
I'm not going.
Please go, Christopher. I mean it.
I shan't be far away.
What is all this, Molly? You must be perfectly crazy. Perfectly prepared to shut yourself up in the kitchen with a homicidal
He
maniac.
isn't.
Oh, please. You've only got to look at him to see he's balmy.
He isn't. He's just unhappy. I tell you, Giles, he isn't dangerous. I know he was dangerous. And besides, I can look after myself.
That's what Mrs. Boyle said.
Oh, Giles, don't.
Look here, what is there between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean by between us? I'm just sorry for him, that's all.
Perhaps you've met him before. Perhaps you suggested him to come in and pretend to meet for the first time.
Are you out of your mind? How dare you suggest these things?
Rather odd, isn't it, that he should come to stay at an out-of-the-way place like this?
No odder than that Miss Casewell, Major Metcalf, and Miss Boyle should.
I read once in a paper that these homicidal cases were able to attract women. Seems as though it were true. Where did you first know him? How long has this been going on?
Joyce! You're being absolutely ridiculous. I never set eyes on Christopher Wren until he arrived yesterday.
That's what you say. Perhaps you've been running up to London to meet him on the sly.
You know very well that I haven't been up to London for weeks.
You haven't been up to London for weeks. Is that so?
It's quite true.
Is it? Then what's this? This is one of the gloves you were wearing yesterday. I picked it up when I was talking to Sergeant Trotter. You see what's inside it? A London bus ticket.
That is...
So it seems you didn't only go to the village yesterday. You went to London as well.
Oh, wait, quite...
Whilst I was safely away, racing around the countryside.
Yes, whilst you were racing around the countryside.
Come on now, admit it. You went to London.
All right, fine. I went to London. So did you.
What?
This is an evening paper you brought back.
Well, where did you get hold of that?
In your overcoat pocket.
Anyone could have put it there.
Did they? No. You went to London.
All right, I went to London, but I didn't go to meet a woman there.
Didn't you? Are you sure you didn't?
What do you mean?
Get away from me. Don't come here.
What's the
Don't
matter?
touch me!
Did you go to London yesterday to meet Christopher Wren?
Don't be a fool.
Then why did you go?
I shan't tell you. Perhaps now I've forgotten why I went.
Molly, what's come over you? You're different all of a sudden. I feel as though I don't know you anymore.
Perhaps you never did know me. We've been married how long? A year? And you don't know what I've done or vowed to suffer before I knew you?
Molly, you're crazy.
All right, fine then. I'm crazy. Perhaps it's fine to be crazy.
What the hell are you?
Now. I do hope you're both not saying no more than you mean. One is so apt to these lovers' quarrels.
Lovers' quarrels, that's good.
Quite so, quite so. I know just what you mean. I've been through all this when I was a younger man. Je ne sais, as the poet says. Not been very long, I presume.
Not as any business of yours, Mr. Paracini.
No business at all. I just came to say that the sergeant has misplaced his skis and he's afraid he's very annoyed.
Christopher.
What's that?
Miss Ralston, he wants to know if by any chance you removed them.
No, of course not.
Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, have you removed my skis from the cupboard back there where we put them?
Certainly not.
Somebody's taken them.
What made you have to look for them?
The snow is still lying. I need help here. Reinforcements. I was going to ski to Buckinghamton to the police station to report on the situation.
And now you can't. Dear, dear. Somebody made sure you shan't do that. But there could be another reason, couldn't there?
Yes? What?
Somebody may want to get away.
What did you mean when you said Christopher just now?
Nothing.
So a young architect has hooked it. Very, very interesting.
Is this true, Mrs. Holstein?
Oh, thank goodness you haven't gone after
Have you
me.
taken my skis, Mr. Wren?
No, Sergeant.
Mrs.
Why
Holstein
should
seemed to
I?
think that you've taken them.
Mr. Wren is very fond of skiing, and I thought he might want to get a bit of exercise.
Exercise?
Now listen, you people. This is a serious matter. Someone has stolen the only means of communication with the outside world. I want everyone here at once.
I think that's the case while I'm upstairs.
I'll go.
I left Major Metcalf in the library. Major Metcalf! He's not there anymore.
I'll try and find him.
Hello, wanting me.
It's a question of my skis.
Skis.
Mr. Ralston!
Did you take my skis?
Good Lord, no, why should I?
No, I didn't take them.
Well, nevertheless, they are gone. Which way did you go to your room?
By the back stairs.
You must have seen him.
If you say so. I have no idea where your skis are.
You were actually in that cupboard today, were you not?
Yes, I was.
At the time Mrs. Wall was killed.
Yeah, at the time his boy was killed, I got out of the cellars.
Did you see them as you passed through?
No, I can't remember.
You must remember if you saw them there.
Can't remember.
Major Metcalf, you must remember if you saw them there.
No good shouting at me, young fellow. I wasn't interested in any damn skis. Architecture of this place is very interesting. I opened the other door and I went down, so I can tell you if your skis were there or not.
You realize, Major Metcalf, that you yourself had an excellent opportunity of taking them.
Yes, I grant you that.
The question
I wanted
is,
to.
where are they now?
How to find them if we all set to. Not a case of hunt the thimble. Supposing we all set to.
Major Metcalf. You know, maybe that's just what we're all meant to do. I've got to put myself in the place of a crazy and cunning brain. I've got to ask myself what he wants us to do, and what he himself is planning to do next. I've got to be just one step ahead of him. Because if I'm not, there will be another death.
You still don't believe that.
Yes, in this case, well, I do. 3 blind mice. 2 mice cancelled out. A third still to be dealt with. There are 6 of you listening to me, and one of you is a killer. One of you's a killer. I don't know which one of you it is yet, but I'll share. And another one of you is the killer's prospective victim. That's the person I'm speaking to. Mrs. Boyle held out for me. Well, Mrs. Boyle is dead. You, whoever you are, that's holding out for me, don't. Because someone who has killed twice will not hesitate to kill a 3rd time, and as it is, I do not know which one of you it is who needs protection. Come on. Anyone here who has anything, however slight, to reproach themselves for that bygone business had better come out with it. All right, you won't. I'll get the killer out of that, but it may be too late for one of you. And let me tell you this. The killer's enjoying himself. Oh, yes. He's enjoying himself a good deed. All right. You can go.
tried chicken's liver served on toast. With some hoiga, with a thin ration of bacon, just touched with a soapstone or fresh mustard. Let's go to the kitchen together and see what we can concoct. A charming occupation.
Well, I'm helping my wife prepare the scene.
Your husband is afraid for you, quite naturally under the circumstances. He doesn't fancy you being alone with me. It is my sadistic tendencies he fears, not my dishonest ones. Alas, what an inconvenience the husband always is. A river to that?
I'm sure Giles doesn't think.
He's very wise. Take no chances. But how can I prove to you, or to him, or to our dogged sergeant that I'm not a homicidal maniac? So hard to prove a negative. And perhaps I really am.
Oh, don't.
It's such a gay little tune, don't you think? She cuts off their tails with the carving knife. Snick, snick, snick. Delicious. Just what a child would adore. Cruel things. Some of them never grow up.
Stop frightening my wife at once.
I know it's silly of me, but I'm the one who found her there. Her face was all purple. I'll never forget it.
Yes, it's hard to forget things. You're not the forgetting kind, are you?
The chicken, the dinner, the potatoes all falling to pieces. Giles.
What did you say to the lady to upset her, sir?
Oh, just a little innocent fun. I wasn't fond of a little joke.
That's nice fun. Then there's fun that's not so nice.
What do you mean by that?
I've been doing a little wondering about you, sir.
Indeed.
I've been wondering about that con of yours, and how happy you overturning the snowdrift so conveniently.
Inconveniently, don't you mean?
That rather depends on the way you're looking at it. Just, where were you bound for when you had this accident?
Oh, I was on my way to see a friend.
In this neighborhood?
Not very far from here.
What was the name and address of this friend?
Now, does that really matter? I mean, it has nothing to do with this predicament, has it?
We always like the fullest information. And what you said his friend's name was?
I didn't say.
Right. You didn't say. And it seems as if you're not going to. Now, I found that very, very interesting.
But there can be so many reasons. And more, discretion, these jealous husbands.
Rather old to be running around with the ladies at your time of life, aren't you?
I am not quite perhaps as old as you think I am.
It's just what I've been thinking, sir. That you may not be as old as you try to look. There are a lot of people trying to look younger than they are. If someone goes around trying to look older, well, it does make one ask oneself why.
You ask so many questions of other people, and now you ask questions of yourself? Isn't that how we're doing things?
I want an answer from myself. I don't get money from you.
Well, try again. Let's see if you have any more questions.
I want to. Where are you coming from next night?
From London,
Which address in London?
the Ritz Hotel.
Very nice, too, sure. What's your permanent address?
I just like permanency.
What's your business and profession?
I play the markets.
Stockbroker?
No, you misunderstand me.
Enjoying this gang, aren't you? But I wouldn't be too sure of yourself. You're involved in a murder case, and don't you forget it. Murder isn't just fun and games.
Not even this murder? My dear Sergeant, you are very serious. I always thought the policemen have no sense of humor. Is this inquisition over for the moment?
For the moment, yes.
Thank you so much. Now we'll return to the drawing room and look for your skis. Just in case someone might have hidden that in the grand piano.
Just a minute, please.
Were you speaking to me?
Yes. Perhaps you'd like to come and sit down.
Well, what do you want?
You may have heard some of the questions I was asking Mr. Purposini.
I heard them.
Well, I would like some information from you.
What do you want to know?
Full name, please.
Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
address?
Find it or Mariposa, Mallorca.
That's in Italy?
It's an island. Spanish island.
See. And your address in England?
Cow Morgan's Bank, Leadenhall Street.
No other English address?
No,
How long have you been in England, Miss Caswell?
a week.
And you've been staying since your arrival?
At the Ledbury Hotel in Knightsbridge.
What brought you to Mousetrap November, Miss Caswell?
I wanted somewhere quiet, out of the country.
How long did you or do you propose to remain here?
Until I've finished what I came here to do.
Yes, and what was that? And what was that?
Oh,
What was it you came here to do?
I beg your pardon, I was thinking.
You haven't answered my question yet.
I really don't see, why I should. It's a matter that concerns me. Alone.
All the same, Miss Caswell.
No, I don't think we'll argue about it.
Would you mind telling me your age?
Not in the least. It's in my passport. I'm 24.
24?
You were thinking I look older. It's quite true.
Is there anyone in this country who can vouch for you?
My bank can reassure you as to my financial position. I can also refer you to a solicitor. Very discreet man. I'm not offered any position to offer you a social reference. Lived abroad most of my life.
In Mallorca?
In Mallorca. And other places.
You say you were born abroad?
No. I left England when I was 13.
You know, Miss Caswell, there's something I can't quite figure out about you.
Does it matter?
I don't know. What are you doing here?
It seems to bother you.
It does. You say you went abroad when you were 13.
12, 13, thereabouts.
Was your name Caswell then?
It's my name now.
Come on, tell me, what was your name then?
What are you trying to prove?
I want to know what your name was when you left England.
It's a long time ago. I've forgotten.
There are things one does forget.
Possibly.
Unhappiness and despair.
I dare say.
What's your real name?
I told you, Leslie Margaret Catherine Casewell.
What the hell are you doing here?
Oh God. I just to God I never come here.
I thought police weren't allowed to give the third degree.
I have been merely interrogating Miss Caswell.
You seem to have upset her. What did he do?
No, nothing. It's all this murder. It's so horrible. It came over me suddenly. I'll be in my room.
It's impossible. I can't believe it.
What can't you believe? 6 impossible things before breakfast like the Red Queen?
Oh yes, it's rather like that.
My dear, you look as though you've seen a ghost.
I've seen something I ought to have seen before. Blind is about to bed. But I think now we may be able to get somewhere.
The police have a clue.
Yes, Mr. Wren, please finally have a clue. I want everyone assembled in here. Do you know where they are?
Giles and Molly are in the kitchen, and I've been helping Major Metcalf look for your skis. We've looked in the most entertaining places, but also no avail. I don't know how this evening is.
I know he is. You get the others. Mr. Paravicini! Paravicini!
Yes, Sergeant?
Come in here, please. The old policeman has lost his keys and doesn't know where to find them. Leave him alone in Netherlands home, dragging a murderer behind them. What is all this? Sit down, Major. Mrs. Orson, please.
Must I come now? It's very inconvenient.
There are more important
Sergeant.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I want cooperation and I intend to get it. Miss Rawson, will you please go upstairs and fetch Miss Casewell? She's in her room. Tell her it will only be a few minutes.
Have your skis been found, Sergeant?
No, Mrs. Rawson, but I might say I have a very shrewd suspicion of who took them. I won't say anything more at present matter.
Please don't. I always think explanations should be left to the very end. That exciting last chapter, you know.
This isn't a game, sir.
Isn't it? I believe it is a game. To somebody.
What's happening?
Sit down, Miss Casewell. Now, will you all please pay attention? Now, you may remember that after the murder of Mrs. Boyle, I took statements from you all. Those statements were related to your position at the time the murder was committed. These statements were as follows. Mrs. Ralston was in the kitchen, Mr. Carpentini in the drawing room, Mr. Ralston in his bedroom, Mr. Wren ditto, Ms. Casewell in the library, and Major Metcalf in the cellar.
Correct.
Those were the statements you gave me. I had no means of checking these statements. They may be true, they may not. To put it quite clearly, 5 of those statements are true. But one of them is a lie.
Which one?
5 of you were telling the truth, but one of you is lying to me. I have devised a plan that may help me to discover the liar, and if I discover that one of you lied to me, then I know who the killer is.
Not necessarily. Someone may have lied for some other reason.
I'd rather doubt that.
Well, what's the idea? You just said you had no means of checking these statements.
No. But supposing you're all to go through these actions a second time,
Oh, that old chestnut. Reconstruction of the crime.
That's a foreign idea.
not a reconstruction of the crime, Mr. Parabasini, a reconstruction of the movements of apparently innocent persons.
You want a repeat performance?
Yes, Mr. Rawson, I do.
It's a trap.
What do you mean it's a trap?
It's a trap, I know it is.
It isn't a trap. I just want people to do exactly what they did before.
What I don't see, I simply can't see what you could hope to find by people just repeating themselves. I think it's just nonsense.
Do you, Mr. Ray?
Well, you can count me out. I'll be in the kitchen.
I can't count anybody out! One might believe that you're all guilty by the looks of you. Why are you all so unwilling?
All right. As you say go, Sergeant. We'll all cooperate, eh, Molly?
Very well.
Red? Miss Casewell?
Yes.
Parabasini?
Oh yes, I consent.
Metcalf?
Yes.
We're all to do exactly as we did before.
The same actions will be performed, yes.
Perhaps Palpatine should return to the drawing room.
Yes, then once again I'll return to the drawing room. And once again I'll pick out the one-finger tune of the murder. Dum, dum, dum.
Don't not quite so fast. Miss Parabasini? Mrs. Ralston, do you play the piano?
Yes.
Then you know the tune of the nursery rhyme, 3 by Mars.
Doesn't talk about it.
Well, then you can pick it up. On the piano, just as Mrs. Parabasini did.
Yes.
Good. Please, go into the drawing room, sit at the table, and then begin to play when I give you the signal.
But I thought we were each to repeat our former roles.
Yes, but not necessarily by the same people.
I don't see the point.
There is a point. This is a means of checking up on the original statements. One statement in particular. Now, if you'd all please listen. I will assign each of you new stations. Miss Wren, will you kindly go into the kitchen and look after Mrs. Ralston's dinner? You're very fond of cooking, I believe. Mr. Parabasini, please go upstairs into Mr. Wren's room. By the back says is most convenient way. Major Metcalf, would you please go upstairs and into Mr. Rawson's room and try the extension telephone there. Miss Castle. I want you to go down to the cellars. On the back stairs. Mr. Wren will show you the way. Unfortunately, I need someone to reproduce my own actions. I'm sorry to ask it of you, but Miss Lawson, would you kindly go along the front door and check on the telephone wire there? Stand at the front door.
What are you going to do?
You all stay in your places and you hear me call you.
Taking a bit of a risk, aren't you?
I said you will all stay in your places until you hear me call you. Parlor games.
No objection about wearing a coat.
I should advise it, sir. You can take my flashlight. It's on the buffet there. Mrs. Ralston, count 20 and then please begin to play. Mrs. Ralston! Mrs. Ralston!
Yes, what is it? You're looking very pleased with yourself. Have you got what you wanted?
Yes, I've got exactly what I wanted.
You know who the murderer is?
Yes, I know.
Which of them?
You ought to know, Mrs. Ralston.
I.
Yes. You've been extraordinarily foolish. You've run a very good chance of being killed by holding out to me. As a result, you've been in danger more than once.
I don't know what you mean.
Please, Mrs. Wilson, us policemen aren't quite so dumb as you think. All along, I've realized you had first-hand knowledge of the Longridge farm case. You knew Mrs. Boyle was a magistrate concerned. In fact, you knew all about it. Why didn't you speak up and say so?
I wanted to forget.
Your maiden name is Miss Waring.
Yes.
Miss Waring, you taught school. In the school where those children went.
Yes.
It's true then. Jimmy, the boy who died, managed to get a letter posted to you. The letter begged for help. Help from a kind young teacher. You never answered that letter.
I couldn't. I never got it.
You just didn't bother.
That's not true. I was ill. I came down with pneumonia that very day. The letter was put aside with the others. It wasn't 2 weeks afterwards that I got it. And by then, that poor child was dead. Dead. Hoping. Gradually losing hope. If only I hadn't been ill. If only I'd known. It's monstrous that such things should happen.
Yes. It's monstrous.
I thought the police didn't carry revolvers.
The policemen don't, Mrs. Wilson. I'm not a policeman. You thought I was a policeman because I rang up from a call box and said that I was sending Superintendent Trotter on his way. I cut the telephone wires outside the front door. You know who I am, Mrs. Ralston? I'm Georgie! I'm Jimmy's brother, Georgie!
Oh!
You'd better not scream, Mrs. Ralston, because if you do, I shall fire this revolver. I'd like to talk to you a little. I said I'd like to talk to you a little. Jimmy died. That nasty, cruel woman killed him. They put her in prison, but prison wasn't bad enough for her. I said I'd kill her. I did too in the fog. It was great. I hope Jimmy knows. I killed them all when I've grown up. That's what I said, because grown-ups can do everything they like. I'm going to kill you in a minute.
You better not try to run. You'll never get safely away, you know.
I can't find my skis, but it doesn't matter. I'm tired. It's all been such fun watching you all pretending to be a policeman.
That revolver will make a lot of noise.
Oh, it will, rather. do it the usual way and take you by the neck.
Stop it!
Unless it's a mouse in a trap.
Let go of me!
Georgie! Georgie! You remember me now, don't you? Remember the farm, Georgie? The animals? That fat old pig? The day the bull chased us across the farm? And the dogs?
Dogs.
Yes. Spot. Thanks.
The
You know me now, don't you?
Kathy. It is you. What are you doing here?
I came to England to find you. I didn't recognize you until you stuttered and twirled your hair the way you always used to do. Yes, you always did it. You're coming with me, Georgie. Come with me.
Where are we going?
I'm taking you to a place where they'll look after you. Where they'll see that you can't do any more harm.
Ralston! Ralston!
Oh, you all right? Darling, darling.
Oh, Giles,
Who has ever dreamt of this Trotter?
he's mad, quite mad.
Yes, but you...
I was mixed up in it all. I taught in the school where those boys went, but it wasn't my fault. He thought I could have helped the boy.
You should have told me.
I wanted to forget.
Everything's under control. He'll be unconscious soon. With a sedative. His sister's taking care of him. I've had my suspicions of him all along.
Didn't you think it was a policeman?
No, you see, Miss Ralston, I'm a policeman.
You?
Yes, as soon as we got a hold of the notebook with Monkswell Manor written on it, we thought it very important to have someone on the spot just in time. We contacted Major Metcalf as soon as we could, and he agreed for me to take his he agreed for me to take his spot.
Casewell is his sister.
Yes, well, she came to me just in time. She came to me just in time to,
So odd. I thought it was Paracasini.
Yes, I gather they'll examine our car and this rather carefully.
I hid those skis on top of the forepost, sir. I'll go get them.
You shouldn't be surprised if we find 1,000 or so Swiss watches in the spare wheel. Yes, that's his line of business. Nasty little bit of goods. Well, believe you thought I was...
Giles, why did you go to London yesterday?
Well, I was buying an anniversary present. We've been married just a year today.
That's why I went too, but I didn't want you to know.
No.
It's a watch. I hope you like it.
Oh, darling, it's splendid.
What's my present?
Yes, I must forgot about yours.
Pearls? But I hardly ever dress up.
Just for best.
I still can't believe we both went to London.
Isn't it extraordinary?
Oh, they're wonderful.
They're all right, aren't they? The girl in the shop said it was the latest thing in jewelry.
Miss Ralston, there's a terrible smell of burning coming from the kitchen.